Hi, it's Jenny here from Ironbridge Fine Arts, Ironbridge Printmakers on Instagram. This is a movie showing you how to register relief and intaglio plates by using our registration systems. Now, our registration systems are second to none because we use our own registration systems in our own print studios every day. We also teach our ways of printmaking as well to customers all over the world. So, tried and tested registration systems that really do work. Now, in all of printmaking, we have three main forms of printmaking. We have relief, we have planographic, and then we have intaglio. Now, relief is where we roll sticky ink onto the surface of a plate, and we print with dry paper, and we kiss the paper to the plate, and we get a print. Now, intaglio is completely the opposite. It's where we're scratching, dry point, or we're etching with acids into a surface of a plate. Now, photopolymer, photo etching, that all comes under intaglio as well, because we're creating textures and lines within a surface. We're using oily ink to ink all of those areas up, and then we're wiping the excess ink off the surface of the plate. We're printing on a press with blankets, high pressure, on paper that we've blotted and soaked for over 20 minutes. Now, those two ways of printmaking are fantastic, because if we come from these two spaces, these two places, we set the press up either for relief or either for intaglio, we are onto a real winner. Now, in the middle, we have planographic, that's litho, mono. It's a flat surface. We're printing a flat surface. You can print that with a gunning etching press as well. Well, with any etching press, but you can print that surface off using any of the two ways that you can set the press up for relief or intaglio. And then you have planographic, which is in the middle. Now, you can print planographic on an etching press, either using blankets or runners. So we're either setting the press up for relief or intaglio. So setting the press up, let's just do intaglio first. Now, this is my number 2 geared gunning etching press. And when we're setting the pressure on our presses, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Now, I'm using, I like to use 8mm raised felt and a 1.5 swan skin. This prints mezzotint for fine photogravures, etchings beautifully. Now, I'm not trying to talk you through the actual etching press itself, so I'm going to skip that part, but we're going to set the pressure. Now I'm going to show you how to register. Now I'm setting the pressure on the press, righty-tighty, all the way down until you can't turn them anymore, and then come back on yourself a little bit. That'll give you a really nice pressure for mezzo photogravure, like I said. Now I'm going to pull the press bed out so I can work and show you. Okay, here we go. This is our registration bed. So let's imagine that we want to register this plate, okay? So on the bed itself. Now in the middle is 0, and these come out and they have measurements on. So they go from 0 all the way up to 250 mil. Okay, so same here, 0 all the way up to 250. And this 0 here along here goes all the way up to 490, both sides. So basically, if we've got a square plate, we could put the plate up to 80, 80, 80, and 80, and we would know that we're centralized. Now these are centimeter squares, which means we can put this exactly where we want it to. This is at 67 mil, both sides, and this is at 100. So that's perfectly square, just by using this. Now, I have paper that I've already cut. In fact, I have paper that I always use underneath the press that is already pre-cut. I have paper. Now, this paper itself, we can do the same with this as well if we wanted to. So we can go 130 that side, no, 125. Okay, so that's perfect here, that's perfect here, and that's 175. That's it. So I now know the plate is in exactly the center of that piece of paper. Now I can use my thin washi tape to mark where my paper is going to go, which is great. Perfect. Now I can mark where my plate is going to go. Now the washi tape is very thin, so you actually can place it underneath your plate. 68. I want to make things as easy as I can so that when I'm printing, I can literally just come here, throw that plate on, know that I'm in the right place. And it was 100, wasn't it, both sides? That's it. So 100 it is. It's going to come in just a little bit. Now this won't change the print. It won't upset the plate, and it won't cause any problems when printing. But it means that now I know that when I come here, I can position that directly onto the press bed, because our registration beds wipe clean, which is really nice. That's all set. Once I've soaked and blotted the paper, I can come here, I can put the paper here, and I can drop it down, which is absolutely fantastic, really nice and easy. That's way one. That's if you have one of our registration beds. That's why I made the registration beds the way I have, because they're so easy and so simple to use. What happens if we don't have pre-paper cut? We have to work from the plate size. So let's do that together. Let's leave the plate mark there because we know that that is the plate mark and we're happy with that. Okay, so let's imagine we haven't got a final paper size and we're going to create it ourselves. What we want to do is we want to start off with the plate size itself. Now the plate size itself, let's do it in mil to make our lives really nice and easy, is 132 by 200. 132 by 200. Now let's put our paper size at 50 mil all the way around. So it's 50 mil on the top, on the bottom, and the sides. So I'm visual. I like to always draw it all out. Okay, so that's the plate size is 132 plus 50 plus 50. So the paper size is going to be 232 and then 200 that way. So plus 50 is 300. I'll go cut that. So now we have to position it on here the best, so that it's exactly square. Now the really cool thing about our beds is we can just go back to the old way, which is we run up along the figures here. That's 110. So we're just going to put it in the middle so that both these numbers read the same. So now it's 115 both sides, and here should be 150. There you go, that's 150. So I know that is perfectly square. But if you don't have a reg bed, how do you do it? You can count the squares, but if you don't have a reg bed, so if you don't have a reg bed, the way I would do it is you do a dummy piece of paper. So you can measure it, because you want to get the registration just right. So put that piece of paper, put the plate into the middle. I haven't had to do this for years because I use my registration bed. 50, 50. Now I know for a fact that that's nice and square. And then you can draw around it. Pop, pop. Okay, now that can sit on your bed where you haven't got a reg bed, and you can put a piece of plastic on the top of that. Just a piece of see-through plastic, which will wipe clean. And every time you know where your plate's going to go, and you also know where your paper's going to go as well, because that's your final paper size. Now, when you're doing multiple plates, or you're doing double drop is where you're printing one plate twice. Now I like to ink up in relief and then print, and then ink up in intaglio and print on top. Great fun. But how do you get the registration right? Well, there are two ways of doing it. First way is holding your paper underneath the roller, so you make your paper a lot longer. So you go through and you hold the paper so the paper won't move, and then you replace your plate, or you take your plate away, re-ink it, and then put it back in exactly the same position. Now you can do that with our registration bed because you know exactly where the plate goes. However, if you are out by half a mil, you will get a misprint. So what you can do is you can use big chunks of metal or a magnet to keep your plate in the same place, um, to keep that gap ready so you can replace the plate back in. I don't like to do that way, it's too faffy. The way I do it is I print the first one, turn it upside down, the print that is. I grab my second plate or I re-ink the first and I literally drop it back into the emboss, which works an absolute treat. So that's intaglio. Really short, really sweet. That's intaglio. Now, when we now want to move to relief, it's a completely different, it's a different way of setting the press up, and it's a different way of thinking. The reason is because when you're printing relief plates are usually thicker than 3mm. Now, our presses will print any plate up to 8 centimeters thick, so that's great. But if you think about the science of it, you have a top roller and a bottom roller and a bed running through it. Dead simple. But these top rollers are stainless steel. They don't want to go up and down steps. So when it comes to a thick step, it will push it, which is what we call slip. And you can get slip two different ways. First way is that way I just explained, where you're not using enough packing paper or blankets or runners to help that top roller get up and over your plate. The other way of causing slip is by using too runny ink and applying too runny ink with a soft roller. Now, a soft roller will put tons of ink on. Compare it to a hard roller. The hard roller will put perfect layer of ink on. A thin, perfect layer of ink on. So all of those in combination with one another will equal to us getting an absolute perfect print. So the first thing we do, we want to set the press up. Now, I don't like to use blankets with relief. I need to get a print off. I audition for customers all over the world, and I sometimes have to get upwards of 600 or 700 prints off one plate. Now, that's a lot of work. So I actually do time myself, and I can get one print off every 3 minutes if I'm in the flow and no one interrupts me, and I have got my working triangle perfectly worked out, and the plate is no bigger than sort of this. And it's a real flow that I can get into. This is a relief plate here I'm talking about, not intaglio. An intaglio print would probably take me about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes to get into the flow of it. Sort of every 20 minutes, another print comes off. So the difference between inking a relief plate and an intaglio plate are very, very different. So, but we're talking about relief now. So I'm going to show you how to set the press up for relief. So when we're setting the press up, we change the pressure on the press. When you're changing the pressure on the press, you always put the rollers in the middle of the bed. The reason is because the bed will hang over and it will be heavier. So lefty loosey. Now this top roller, as I mentioned, will lift all the way up to here if we want it to. We don't want to go that far. Now 4mm thick runners come with your press. These are runners. These go in your press, underneath your rollers and on top of your press bed. Now I'm just going to do this, so we righty-tighty the pressure all the way down onto the top of the runners. Now they will get tight at exactly the same time, and if they don't, it's because the runners themselves have actually got a tolerance level of 1mm, which means they actually could be 1mm out of from one another, even though we use the same batch. Now that's perfect. We just want to grab those runners so that top roller is running beautifully over on the runners. There's no slip from the roller. That top roller is grabbing those runners perfectly. And we now, because we've used 4mm thick runners, we've got a perfect gap. We've got a perfect gap of 4mm thick, which means we can use packing paper on top of the paper we're printing on to pack up to the top roller so that we just kiss the plate. Now, if we want to, we can secure these runners down. These come with the press. Now, right now, there's intaglio safety stops on the press itself. These all come with the press. So all you do is replace the intaglio safety stops with the relief safety stops. This will go on top of here. This will go in here. And then you just secure this from underneath. And this will hold the runners in place. So this is how the runners work. I've put a perfect thin layer of ink on here. It's Ironbridge. It's my own ink. It's my own recipe of ink that we make and sell all over the world. It's a stay open ink. But I've made the relief ink and the intaglio ink to the perfect viscosity so that I can just take it out of the tub, use it, and put what's left back in the tub. It's awesome. I like to use my registration bed here. Now, if I'm doing an addition, I will put the washi tape, exactly how I showed you before, on and then on around, so I know exactly everything's going in the right place. This is Hessian back lino, but you can use Japanese lino as well. Soft cut lino is hard because it likes to squash. So in order to use soft cut lino or even softer linos, you can double side tape the plate down to a board which will stabilize it. Now, to print this, there's no blankets. We've got runners on the press bed. The runners are 4mm thick. This is Hessian back, 3.2mm thick. To register this plate, we're going to use washi tape. Now, I do like to use the reg bed, as I've already mentioned. 140 is here. 140 is also here on this side. 100 is here. Oh, 100 is there as well. Is it already in the middle? Perfect. It's already exactly where it needed to be. And I'm just going to pop the tape where those 100 and 140, that's what I need to remember. So I'm just going to pop this here and another one here at 140, so I know where the base goes. Now that should do it. I could just do 2. Now that's fine, but I do like a bit of visual. But because this plate is cut off, I'm not going to put it this side, and the plate's cut off at the top, so I'm not going to put it on that side either. So that works really nicely. So I now know where my plate sits. Now this is the paper that I've got pre-cut. So I'm just going to position this exactly as well. So where are we? So there we go. So now it means that my paper can go in, and then I can come quite along happily and position the paper and drop it. So everything is perfect. Should we do that? Plate goes in the middle. There we go. One-handed. There we go. Okay. Paper. Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? Is it straight? Yeah, because we've got all straight lines, so you can see it's straight. Drop that down. Now, if we pull that through, it's not going to print. There's not going to be enough pressure from here to here because the sandwich isn't tight enough. So we use packing paper to pack this up to the top roller. We're running along the runners, which kisses the plate. It won't push it, it will kiss it. Now, if we do get what we call slip, it's because there's too much ink on the surface of the plate, or it's too runny. So if the ink's too runny, it will slip. If you've used a soft roller to apply the ink, you've probably put too much ink on, it'll slip. If you don't put enough packing paper on, you won't get a good enough print because you won't have enough pressure going from the top roller down here. So you can change the packing paper. So every which way you look at this, you've got the control. The one thing that you don't do is secure that plate and that paper to that bed. And this is just for single prints now. This isn't for reduction or multiple plates. Let's just give this a print. I like to use 4 sheets of packing paper. This is South Bank Smooth or bread and butter, whichever one you've got hold of. It's hot rolled, it's flat, it's hard. It's really nice paper. That should give me the perfect print. So we're just running it through the press. Mine's a geared gunning. Nice and smooth. Nice and quick, nice and easy. Perfect. Next thing is reduction and multiple plate. Now you've just seen how I did the single colour, the single one print. Now when we start printing on top, layers on top of one another, or we start printing multiple plates on top of one another, we want to, one, secure the paper, and two, secure the plate. We don't want to secure them to the press bed, because when you use a roller press, it pushes the sandwich whichever way you're printing, and it usually moves about 1/2 mil. I've tested it. So the way that we do it here is I designed these double registration pins many moons ago, and these registration pins are brilliant. They're just metal tabs with they're metal pins with tiny rivets on, and you sellotape those down. Now I like to use them on the press, on a board. Now this is for reduction. For reduction, I will set the press up with 8mm runners, because you always use runners that are higher than the block you're printing, and you always pack up from the paper you're printing to the top roller with packing paper. And I like to double side tape my reduction plate down, whether it's a wood block or lino. I double side tape it into the middle of the board. I don't use the A4 sheets of double sided. That doesn't seem to work very well. A couple of reports back from customers lately have said that they've been coming unstuck even after like the second layer, which is really frustrating. I use heavy duty double-sided carpet tape. There is a really good one at the moment on Amazon. I've just bought like 12 rolls of it. It's lovely stuff. Double-side tape your plate down into the middle of the board. Sellotape your registration pins either side, and then you have your paper. Now the pins, so the tabs, they go onto the paper with sellotape. So always make your board longer so you can then trim all of your prints down afterwards. These are brilliant. These will just go over and on there, and do it both sides. So every single time you put this back, it goes back in exactly the same way. Packing paper on top of that, just like we did just for the single. And you will go through this way. And because you've got pins on both sides, they'll hold the paper nicely. And if you've put too much ink on with a soft roller, you might get slipped. So don't use a soft roller, use a hard roller, and make sure your ink is nice and stiff, with magnesium carbonate if you have to. That's reduction. This is exactly the same, apart from this is for multiple plates. Reg pin either side. And this is a perfect gap. I've created this with double side tape and the thin sheets, the thin strips of mount board, and I've just made sure that all my plates are the same size. We stock mount all different types of lino, and I highly recommend you measuring each block that you're going to use in a multiple plate image, because sometimes they'll come in the same batch, they look the same, but when you actually measure them to the mill, they could be 1/2 mil or a mil out, and that will change everything. So make sure they all fit in perfectly and you know each block, and then you'll get great registration. Same thing this way through the press, 8mm thick high runners, and packing paper on top. That is it. That's how to register your intaglio plates and how to register your relief plates. We sell a good set of runners. We sell lots of different heights of runners. I recommend, pretty much the only ones I ever use is 25mm thick, which are for letterpress, my letterpress I've got. Measure your letterpress first though. Registration pins and tabs, we make and sell those. We manufacture them here. And packing paper is really important too. And the registration bed, we can make these bespoke. We've just had to put the lead time up on these. It's 8 to 12 weeks for a bespoke registration bed. So if you want one, get your order in fast. And if you want to come and me to show you how to do all this, then please get in touch and we can tailor make a workshop to suit you. Thank you.